France has demanded that the EU must launch legal proceedings against Britain over fishing licenses as President Emmanuel Macron continues to accuse the UK of breaking post-Brexit agreements. The move, announced by France's European Affairs Minister on Friday, is the latest over a long-running dispute on fishing licenses for French boats in British waters. Britain and the EU agreed to set up a licensing system to grant fishing vessels access to each other's waters when Britain left the bloc. But France says it has not been given the full number it is due, while Britain says only those lacking the correct documentation have not been granted. In the coming days we will ask the European Commission to launch litigation, a legal procedure, for the licenses we are entitled to, Clement Beaune said. His comments came after President Emmanuel Macron met fishing representatives and local officials, and follows a long-running dispute between France and Britain. The threat of proceedings also comes despite France claiming to have obtained 93% of the post-Brexit fishing licenses it claims from Britain. It hopes the European Commission will put further pressure on London. The UK licenses are at the centre of the dispute following Britain's split with the EU last year. Before Brexit, French fishermen could fish deep inside British waters. Now they need a special license from the British government or the self-governing British Crown dependencies of Jersey and Guernsey to fish in certain areas. French fishermen say Britain and the Channel Island of Jersey, a British Crown dependency, are holding back on licenses for French boats that had been allowed to ply their waters for years before Britain left the EU. Olivier Lenezet, head of the Fishermen's Committee in the Brittany region, said, "Macron made it very clear, the fight continues, it will end only when we will get the licenses. Macron won't stop negotiating," Lenezet added. French Minister of the Sea Annick Girardin said participants at the meeting also discussed economic support for fishermen whose licenses won't be approved. The dispute has sparked the possibility of an all-out trade war, with fishermen in northern France vowing this week to step up protests and block British boats from French ports along the Channel coast. Fishing represents a tiny share of both the French and British economies, but it is politically sensitive. France's Maritime Minister Annick Girardin on Tuesday said we won't give in over the fishing row. Mr. Beaune said earlier this week in an interview that France would still need a few dozen fishing licenses to settle the conflict with London. On Saturday, the UK and Jersey governments issued another 23 licenses to French fishing boats to trawl British waters in an apparent attempt to ease tensions. It came a day after a December 10 deadline for the UK to grant licenses to dozens of French fishing boats under a Brexit deal signed last year, with Paris threatening European legal action if no breakthrough emerged. The licenses were agreed last Friday night after British officials met European Union counterparts and followed what the spokesman called an evidence-based approach ensuring vessels qualify to work in UK waters. The spokesperson added that the approach provides stability and ensures the sustainability of our fisheries, with the UK granting 18 licenses and the Channel Island of Jersey 5. The EU hailed the agreement as an important step in a long process towards implementing the 2020 Brexit agreement and said work continued to license 7 more vessels by Monday. France had previously said 104 of its boats still lacked licenses to operate in British and Channel Island waters that should have been granted under the Brexit agreement. Under the deal, EU fishermen can continue to work in British waters if they can prove they used to fish there. A spokesperson said the decision to grant more licenses had come after Environment Secretary George Eustace spoke with European Commissioner Virginijus Sinkevicius last Friday following several weeks of intensive technical discussions on licensing. French fishermen last month disrupted cross-channel ferry and freight traffic in protest at the post-Brexit arrangements and consequent loss of trade. Half a dozen fishing boats blocked access to ferries at the northern port of Calais and the port of Ouistreham in Normandy to the west. In May, protesting French trawlers massed in front of Jersey's main port and even caused a brief standoff with Royal Navy vessels. The UK is highly dependent on French ports, particularly for fresh food imports, and any extended blockade would have the potential to have a significant impact. The EU and Britain are also locked in a separate trade row over checks on products entering the British province of Northern Ireland after the UK government unilaterally postponed the introduction of checks. The dispute has exacerbated deteriorating bilateral relations between Britain and France, who have clashed this year over migrant crossings in the English Channel, post-Brexit trade arrangements and submarine sales to Australia. To satisfy UK criteria, vessels need to prove that they have fished in UK waters for 1 day in each of the 4 years between 2012 and 2016, while Guernsey and Jersey ask for evidence of fishing for more than 10 days in 1 year of the above period.